Alright, hello everybody. Welcome back. This is Heroes A to Z. I am, of course, Conman. If you saw that Thrall video that we just put out a little while ago, we're going to stay in that Back to the Future kind of vibe, and we're going to skip ahead or back. I'm not sure what way you want to order it, but we're going to check out. I decided to do a full-on video for Malthael. If you watched, I did put out some stuff when I was playing with him on the PTR. My opinions on him have changed somewhat since then. I've had some time to play, not in Hero League yet. I did play a bunch of Quickmatch games, played some more AI games with him, got a better feel for some things, and worked out some, I think, more consistent talent builds. So my opinion, I was a little harsh on him. If you watch my videos on the PTR, again, I have since changed that. I think he does have a niche if you pair him in the right circumstances, and given that, I kind of want to go through things, just give it the full-on, A to Z breakdown, since everything was a little discounted on the PTR. So first off, here's Malthael. He's a ranged assassin. I think melee assassin. He's an assassin. I guess technically he's melee because you've got to kind of be up in your face to hit people. Let's look at his abilities. First off, his trait. His trait is the big deal. This is what kind of drives him. Reaper's Mark. Basic attacks and some of your abilities will affect non-structured targets with Reaper's Mark for 4 seconds. Marked enemies are revealed, so if I hit the target dummy, see he's got the reveal icon on his head. They're revealed for the 4 seconds that is there, and for each of those 4 seconds, once per second, they take damage equal to 2.5 of their maximum health. So it's pretty solid. I mean, that's 10% of their health off the top for 10 seconds. Now there is a limit. There's maths involved that I'm not necessarily going to get into, but it's still pretty solid. Now, something to keep in mind, look at the wording on this: non-structured targets. This will work on literally everything that's not a structure. I can go use it on mercenaries. This will affect minions. It will affect the boss. See, there you go. He's going to take down. This is going to affect the boss. This will affect stuff like the Garden Terror. It's going to affect the Immortal in Battlefield of Eternity, which actually makes him pretty solid in terms of burning the Immortal down. This will affect anything. I've seen it affect Probius's summons, like the the pylon and the towers. It will dot those things. I think if you can hit one of your abilities, it'll even dot Zagara's creep, which is interesting. So pretty much anything but structure. So he doesn't have a whole lot of push in terms of siege damage, straight up siege damage for structures, but he can build up damage over time on literally everything else. So what is this other than applying it by smacking people in the face? What else do you have? You'll notice that these two abilities here, my Q and my W, they light up as soon as this trait is applied, and when it runs out, they disappear. So first off, we've got the Q. Extract the souls of nearby enemies afflicted by Reaper's Mark, so you have to have somebody hit with the trait. It deals 219 damage, healing Malthael for 96 per target hit, so if there are multiple enemies around here, you'll get healed for each one of them. Heroic targets heal Malthael for an additional 3% of the hero's maximum health. So listen to this, the hero's maximum health. So you're going to get more health back for soul ripping a tank, say an Arthas, than you would, say, a Tracer. I mean, obviously, getting any healing back is great, but you're going to get more when you're up against tanks. I was playing a Quickmatch game, and I was playing this against Rexar, and I hit both him and Misha with Soul Rip, and just was very surprisingly strong healing was coming back, because I was only hitting those 2 targets. So it looks something like this. Something to keep in mind, this is 20 mana on a 2-second cooldown. Essentially, as long as you have somebody soul ripped, as long as you have somebody marked, I should say, you can just hold the Q button down, and it will just... I'm going to hold the Q button down, and it will just pop on cooldown, and it's basically free health. And if you dive into a minion wave, and you get them all marked up, it gives yourself some decent self-sustain. Next is your W, your Wraith Strike. Instantly teleport through an enemy afflicted by Reaper's Mark, deals 129 damage, and it refreshes the cooldown. So it looks something like this. So that's good. So what does that do? That gives you a bit of elusiveness. You do get to kind of warp around the battlefield a bit. It's a relatively short cooldown. It's only 5 seconds. It lets you warp around the battlefield a little bit. If you've got a number of enemies that are afflicted by Reaper's Mark and you manage to keep it on them, you can kind of jump in, go like this. You can do something like this. Okay, now I'm going to warp back out, And, you know, there's some interesting tricks that you can pull with it, and it's part of your survivability is to keep the enemy guessing where you're going to end up. It is nice that it does reapply Reaper's Mark when you land, and there's some talents that you can use to kind of buff this up. Now, the fallout, of course, is you can only use this when you have somebody marked. So if you use this, if somebody runs away and you use this to dive in, well, if you don't have any marks over here, you know, that's it. You know, you can't use it to dive back out again. So you have to be careful about that. You don't want to necessarily dive into some trouble. Lastly, we have Death Shroud. This is his only way to apply Reaper's Mark at a distance. After a quarter second, unleash a wave of dark mist that applies Reaper's Mark to all enemies hit. Now, this is really good. I mean, you can literally paint a whole minion wave or paint an area. I'm going to toggle cooldowns. You can paint a whole minion wave. I mean, you see, I think I hit all 4 of them there, which is pretty nice. Could do something like that again. There we go. I hit 3 to 4. I can dive in. And now I can basically hold the Q down. Now, you can actually you can see, this is going to build up over time. As long as I toggle in this camp here and hold the Q down, it's going to burn through some mana, but I can essentially just solo this Merc camp as long as I keep my mark up on all 4 of them all at once. The advantage of this gives you some range on your Death Shroud. It gives you, on your Reaper's Mark rather, you know, it keeps enemies, it keeps them on their toes. It's a very, you know, easy ability to dodge. You do kind of telegraph it a little bit so they can see it coming, they can dodge out of the way. But if you do manage to hit somebody, you can then kind of turn around and then follow up with your abilities as such. It's great. It's slow to hit, so you got to be careful. The problem with Death Shroud is if you don't, I guess the con of it is the consideration. If you don't hit it, and you don't have anybody marked, it kind of puts you in a rough spot. You know, if you've got a ranged team and you can throw this out there and maybe back up, you know, it's just a little bit of poke damage. Keeps them on their toes. But if you don't hit that, if you miss or you flub it or they dodge or whatever it may be, now I'm sitting here, I can't just walk in. Like, I have no gap closers. You know, without Mark being applied to somebody, you have no gap closers. You have no way to kind of dive in or anything like that. So even though Malthael is an assassin, he's not your prototypical burst assassin. You know, he's definitely more of a sustained assassin. He's going to be damage over time. He does have some abilities that can make him sort of bursty, but he's not a burst assassin. He's not gonna zero, you know, 100% to zero you in just a couple of seconds. You know, it is gonna take him some time. He's really more about just painting the area, kind of diving in, applying Mark to as many things as possible to keep himself alive, and then kind of jumping ship when the opportunity arises or when the situation calls for it. So let's take a look at his ults. You know, if you have watched the videos on the PTR, some of this is going to be familiar. There were no changes as far as I can see between the PTR and live, other than a bug fix for his last rights quest. Otherwise, everything else is going to be exactly the same. So this will be the same. But feel free to, you know, listen if you want to, or jump ahead a few minutes when we actually dive into the game. So first off, we have his last rights. Last rights again stays the same. Apply a death sentence to an enemy hero. They don't have to be marked. It could just be anybody. After 2 seconds. It deals damage equal to 50% of their missing health. And it's a repeatable quest. Every time you kill somebody, every time an enemy is killed who has last rights on them, it reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds to a minimum of 15. Now it's a 75-second cooldown by default. This is where you can kind of finish somebody off and be a little bit bursty, but they have to be low health. This is the opposite of Cursed Bullet. While Cursed Bullet does more damage to people who are at a lot of health, this is going to do more damage to people who are low health. So if I cast this here on this here target dummy that's at full health, it doesn't do anything. It did absolutely nothing because he's at full health. If I cast it on this Arthas that's at, you know, 3/4 health, you see it did a big chunk. That's about 1,000 there. He's about half out now. If I cast it again, okay. Now you see he's got the skull in him. That means if I cast it now, it's going to be a kill. And there he goes. And that was quite a bit of damage. So you can use this to finish people off. If somebody's at 30%, I think it's like 32%. I forgot what the exact cutoff was. It's around 31, 32%. But if they're that low on their health, you'll see the skull there, and assuming they don't get healed anymore, that will be a kill once it goes off. The downside of this is it's really short. Like, it is a shorter range than... Whoops, it makes it easier to show you when I actually hit it. This is Wraith Strike. Actually, this is Wraith Strike with a talent, but this is Last Rites. Like, it's a really, really short range. You really have to be close to do this. It's good in the sense that you can really pick people off if they're super low, but It's the flashy talent. This is one of those things that I say all the time where the flashy talent is fun to use, but it may not always be the empirically best talent in a team fight. You know, it's a long cooldown unless you can trigger the quest. I mean, this is going to take you 12 stacks, but not counting for the level 20 upgrade. This is going to take you 12 stacks to get maximum value out of this. So, assuming you hit every single one, you know, you're going to have to go through most of the game before you can stack this up toward the very end. The other ult, which I've been finding seems to have a lot more value, is Tormented Souls. So Tormented Souls is an interesting one. You gain 20 armor straight away. Now you don't have armor by default. And you just get this AoE. And the AoE doesn't do anything other than apply the mark. Now, you can just walk in, if you dive into a bunch of enemies, you can do this. Now you hit everybody all at once. I wouldn't use this on a merc camp because it's got a long cooldown. But you can hit everybody all at once. You do have some armor to keep you, protected just a little bit. Let me show that again. Once you're in here, you can still cast other abilities, so I can soul rip myself back up to, health. This is really going to shine against auto attack teams that use a lot of physical damage, when coupled with his level 13 talent, which we'll get to. I'll show you right now. But his level 13 talent, he's got one here called Ethereal Existence. You can gain 15 physical armor per enemy hero afflicted by Reaper's Mark.
Choose a talent.
You see, here's some physical armor. If I hit more than one, this is gonna stack up. Okay. Actually, it's enemy heroes, so silly me. It does have to be actual enemy heroes, but this is gonna stack with your thing here. So if you dive into 4 enemy heroes. Excuse me, if you dive into 4 enemy heroes that are all basic attacks, you pop this open, not only are you damaging them because you've got the Reaper's Mark that's being refreshed and you can dance around and use Soul Rip and Wraith Strike, but you're going to have 20 armor just straight away, plus 45 armor on top of that. So it could make a pretty imposing presence for those 4 seconds while this is on. I find this surprises people. They don't realize, like, why is he suddenly not taking any damage? Also, here's something that I learned about Ethereal Existence. Notice you've got physical armor. It doesn't show the armor icon. Like, you don't get... Here you get the armor icon. Here's the armor icon that the enemies can see. If you hit this, unless the enemy, unless somebody's, been eagle-eyed and paid attention to the talents and looked at what you've taken, they don't realize, they don't get an indicator that you have Ethereal Existence and then you're getting armor. And I think that is, personally, I think that's a bug and should be addressed, but... If you're playing Malthael, something to keep in mind. If you're playing against Malthael, something to also keep in mind, especially if you use auto attacks. Once you hit level 13, check his talents, see which one of these he chooses, because his 13 talents are all about being protected against, certain things. So with that being said, let's reset. We'll dive through a couple of talents real fast, and we'll hop into a game. So level 1 are his mobility talents. So we've got Death's Reach, increases Wraith Strike range by 35%. It could be good. I mean, it could give you the extra range on Wraith Strike. Like, Wraith Strike by default is that. If you take this, it's this. It's a little bit more range. I still run into the problem of that Wraith Strike is kind of used to dive in on people, and then you don't have a means of escape. So I tend to go with... I think if you're really skilled and you're really good at coding people, this could be strong. For my playstyle, I tend to get more value out of one of the other two. On a Pale Horse, gives you 20% movement speed while mounted, which is nice on big maps. And then I do like Fear the Reaper a lot. Activate to increase movement speed by 25%, and you can pass through other units. So you can kind of dive in on somebody. Oh, now I'm in trouble, and then and run away. It gives you just a little bit of mobility. You don't have a lot of mobility by default, especially if you don't have anybody marked. This gives you just a little bit, just enough in a lot of situations to get away and skirt out of danger. At level 4, we have Die Alone. Soul Rip deals 75% more damage if it hits only one hero and no other enemies. We have Throwing Shade. I don't use this too much. I usually go one of the other two so far. Throwing Shade, hit 20 heroes, not just enemies, 20 heroes with Death Shroud. Permanently increase Death Shroud's range by 33% and reduce its cooldown by 2 seconds. So that can be useful. The range is nice. Here's the range by default.
Choose a talent.
Here is your extra range, and then having only a 6-second cooldown is pretty neat. Alternatively, you've got a quest talent here at level 4. Apply Reaper's Mark 2 heroes for a total of 150 seconds. The reward is you permanently increase Reaper's Mark its duration by 2 seconds, so it'll have a 6-second duration. This could be useful when you stack it with your level 16. If you go Memento Mori, this could be useful just for anything. If you, especially if you're going to be bouncing around, knowing that enemies are going to have Reaper's Mark on them, more often. I find it more useful for sustained and mobility than even just the increased damage, because they'll have 2 extra ticks of Reaper's Mark anytime you refresh it as well. It'll be 6 seconds. So especially if you can build this up pretty quickly, you can apply this to multiple heroes at once if they're grouped up. Could be potentially very powerful. I like Throwing Shade or Black Harvest. Die Alone is useful for if you're dueling. If you're going to run into a lot of situations where it's just you and one other person, this could be interesting. Just for a little bit of burstiness, just a little bit of extra damage. You can cast this every 2 seconds, so this could build up. Level 7, Soul Rips slows. Soul Rip 20% for 2.5 seconds, so that is pretty neat. You've got Mortality. When damaging a hero, Rate Strike will deal bonus damage equal to 4% of that hero's maximum health, which is one of the other reasons why I think he's going to be very strong anti-tank. Touch of Death. Activate to reduce healing received by heroes afflicted by Reaper's Mark by 50% for 4 seconds. What's interesting about this is this is going to affect everyone afflicted by Reaper's Mark. If they have really good, like really strong healing, maybe double support, I'm not sure, what the comp might be. This is a 30-second cooldown, but you could, if you get lucky enough to paint the entire enemy team, suddenly you target this, and then everybody has got less healing coming their way. Talked about the ults at 10. At 13, now I already mentioned Ethereal Existence. Alternatively, we have Soul Siphon, increases Soul Rip's bonus healing from heroes to 4%, so it's only 1% more. It could make a difference. I think you tend to be better off one of the other ones. You have Inevitable End. Activate to become unstoppable for 2 seconds, but remove all active Reaper's Marks. Whether you have 10 Reaper's Marks or 1 Reaper's Mark, becoming unstoppable could be something that will, get you out of a jam. Otherwise, we have Shroud of Wisdom. After 2 seconds, gain 50 spell armor for 4 seconds. I'm a little torn on this. 50 spell armor for 4 seconds is huge. It is a big deal, but it's after 2 seconds. You really have to know when to use this. Like, you have to, you've got to kind of dive into a team fight. It's not unlike Ethereal Existence, which is just, it happens. This is something that you have to manually trigger.
Choose a talent.
You have to know it's coming, and I think that makes it a little bit tricky to activate. Level 16, Soul Collector reduces Soul Rip's cooldown by 0.5 seconds and increases his range. So there you go, you get just a little bit. It's already 2 seconds. This will make it 1.5 seconds, and the range will be bumped up a little bit. Massacre. Rate Strike now damages and applies Reaper's Mark to enemies around its target. Well, I'll show you that one.
Choose a talent.
We'll just pick whatever.
Choose a talent.
Okay, there's Massacre.
Choose a talent.
You see he's got that little, animation. So anybody here, I'll show you what it looks like on these guys. So see, this one's not hit. Now he is. Now the entire group of them are hit up. So that could be a way, if you only hit one enemy who then walks into the rest of his team, you'll then be able to dive in and then just apply, Reaper's Mark to the rest of the group, and then you can start soul ripping to get your health back. Outside of that, this is the other talent I was talking about, Memento Mori. Reaper's Mark deals 100% increased damage after afflicting an enemy for more than 4 seconds. So again, by default, it's 4 seconds. So by itself, you'll have to at least refresh the cooldown of this once. Otherwise, if you take and complete Throwing Shade, it's going to last 6 seconds, so you'll have at least guaranteed double tick on this. Let's show you what that looks like. We'll go through, we'll reset, we'll take Memento Mori.
Choose a talent.
We'll just hit it here. So there you go, 225 is what it's ticking for right now. Now it toggles, and now you're doing for 450. So as you see, having that extra damage could make a big deal, especially if you're going to do like Race and Immortal. That's going to tick on the Immortal. It's going to tick on bosses, Garden Terrors, Dragon Knights, Golems in Haunted Mines, anything like that. So that could be really good in objective-based maps, just to burn stuff down pretty quickly. Against tanks, it'll be really strong. Also, just having the extra damage is fun. Level 20, Reaper of Souls. While Tormented Souls is active, hero takedowns extend its duration by 4 seconds. Interesting one. I don't know how much value this will get in. This will get in only because you need to have a takedown. you know, your ability straight away isn't really going to cause any takedowns. You know, if you dive into an enemy team and they're at 75% health and you toggle this, should hit the right button. Nope, I have last right selected, but you get what I'm saying. If you toggle Reaper, if you toggle Tormented Souls and everyone's at 75% health, unless your team bursts somebody down, you're not going to get a takedown. You're not going to do it yourself. You're not going to be able to trigger it, so this isn't going to activate, and it could be... You're most likely going to get more value out of one of the other two abilities. Now, if you do take Last Rites, if you decide to take Last Rites will heal you for 100% of the damage dealt, and its current and future cooldown reduction bonuses are doubled, which means it only takes 6 kills to max out the quest. Interesting enough as well for this one, even if the enemy is protected and the damage is absorbed, you still get that healing. So for example, if you drop this on a Varian and he shield walls and protects himself, he gets protected and all that damage is absorbed and he's fine, but you still get all of that healing that would have been dealt to him. So that could be interesting, like in a one-on-one type situation, especially if you're able to build this up to a 15-second cooldown. You know, it could be very strong, but again, super short range. Final Curtain. Death Shroud leaves something in its wake. Anybody who walks through it gets applied Reaper's Mark. So you can share this on this hero. You can see they got way more than 2 ticks on that Reaper's Mark. So it's a little bit of area denial. You know, if somebody walks through, they're going to be applied, and that could be not so great for them. Lastly, here's the fun one. This one, no one can stop death. 180-second cooldown. Very long cooldown. Activate while dead to immediately respawn, but Malthael's next respawn timer is increased by 25%. So there's a trade-off. So you could potentially, if you get yourself picked, you could immediately hit it and respawn right away. But if you get killed again, your respawn timer is increased, which could obviously be bad news. Now, the interesting thing is, it's 180-second cooldown. So if you activate this to respawn, and you stay alive for 180 seconds, you can just hit it again and come right back. There's no, even though your death timer is increased, you can just toggle it one more time and then come right back. There's no preventing you from doing that. You know, there have been a lot of times where I've activated this and I've gotten myself killed because I was silly, and then I come back and I go, okay, well now my death timer is, you know, 70 seconds, except my cooldown on No One Can Stop Death is 20 seconds, so it's still ticking while you're dead, and I just wait the 20 seconds. Now I have 50 seconds on my death timer, and I just toggle it again and come right back. So I think this has the potential to really just, you know, kind of snowball people at the end, or give you some advantages if you do manage to get yourself picked off. So that's my take on Malthael. I think he's going to be very good against dual warriors. You know, even bruisers, even someone like Sonya. She's got a lot of health. Dual warriors, dual tanks. He'll be strong against melee. Anybody who's got to get in range, because, you know, he'll be able to apply Reaper's Mark to everybody. Auto attack damage, he can potentially be very strong with 13 with Ethereal Existence. I find I've struggled with range. I've actually struggled with other Malthaels depending on how they build themselves out. There's a couple of ways to do it. But range is troublesome because it's very hard for you to get in there, and high burst can be a lot of trouble as well. Let's hop into a quick match. I'm somehow, in my practice on live, I'm somehow 5-0 on Malthael in quick match so far, so I've probably just jinxed it. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it won't be too long. We did have a good fight on Battlefield of Eternity where we had 2 Malthaels, one on either team, and we were just taking turns trying to see who can burn down each other's Immortal the quickest. It was really kind of funny. I think initially, there's only a couple of days since he's been released as of this recording. Hot Slogs has him something at like a 52 or 53% win rate. Very low popularity though. When you take into account like the Hero League and whatnot, you know, people do need to learn him. They need to rank him up to level 5 in order to use him. So I don't know where he's ultimately going to end up in a week or two. The initial projections were strong, which completely blows away what I was thinking. I think the way you have to play him is different than most assassins, and I think that was part of my problem. I really just needed some more time to kind of get a feel for him and his playstyle and what you need to do. He's definitely more of a poke kind of hero where he'll throw something out and you can't just dive in and burst people down. You know, you're definitely the opposite of something like a Zeratul. So what do we got? We have double support. We've got a Malfurion, and I think that was an Ariel. Let's see here. What do we got? We got here, Battlefield of Eternity. Okay. So we've got the dueling Malthaels. We have a Butcher, an Ariel, Malfurion, and Sonya. They also have a Butcher, Ariel, and Malthael, so that's an interesting mirror match we've got going on right here. They're a 4-man stack. We have a 2 and 3 solos, Azmodan and Nazebo, so they'll have some push. I think we might win a race on the Immortal. I mean, if we figure the Butcher and Malthaels cancel each other out on the Immortal, maybe Sonya kind of gives us the edge. I'm not sure, depending on what Azmodan and Nazebo do. Actually, maybe not. Now that I think about it, if these guys, they can all do some damage to the Immortal. You know, he can laser, and Nazebo with those spiders can be troublesome. So they'll probably win the Immortal race. You know, Nazebo's more of a late game guy. It could be a matter of who gets their Butcher quest done sooner. Should be interesting. I'm gonna start off here. I am going to take. I'm gonna take Fear the Reaper on this. I don't want to get caught out. I don't want to get. My worry is I'm gonna get lasered. Yeah, they do go laser build. My worry is I'm gonna get lasered and I'm gonna be stuck. And you'd be able to use Fear the Reaper to kind of give yourself a little speed boost and kind of hunt away. Is anybody gonna go top? I guess I'll go top. I don't have any quests right now, so I'll go hang out top. I'm not sure how Malthael fares in a solo lane. I really don't. He can use Death Shroud to kind of scare people away, but if you don't hit it, it's what it is. You can paint everyone all at once and get some sustain with. Oh, there's Azmodan. Here's a couple of people already. Hello, friend. Yeah, like I can't 3v1 these guys, and that's what I'm talking about right there with that laser. So I want to be careful about that. So they're gonna have 2. They have, yeah. We're gonna call 4 top right now. There's really not much I can do here. I'm just gonna send that out. Hopefully do some residual damage, and here we go. Here's Malfurion coming in. And this is a 4-man stack. Yep, that's about what I expected. I probably overextended a little too far. I was hoping Malth would have healed me. I don't know if he was on cooldown or whatnot. But yeah, this was a 4-man team, so I do expect some initial coordination. We're pushing fairly hard bottom. This is the one thing I was worried about between Azmodan and Nazebo. They're gonna have a lot of push.
I shall purge your evil from this realm, demon.
We'll just do like this. Now look at this. Most of this damage is me just keeping my trait up on the Immortal. They're going to win this race. Unless something happens down there that I can't see right now, they're going to win this race. It's pretty close. It's actually surprisingly close. So our guy is going to go over this way. So I'm going to immediately want to paint this. Alright. Yeah, I guess we're gonna get this. They decided, Azmodan decided to go top. We'll probably get this kill. There we go. We will. I am gonna go Memento Mori, or rather. There we go. Now we want to come up and get Azmodan before he is able to retreat. Missed my Death Shroud there. Butcher is bottom, which is fine. We'll give him some time to build up his quest.
I must rest, heroes, but I will.
I think, unless he gets healed, that Butcher might go down. I'm gonna go back because I have no mana. He's a little mana heavy in the early game, although I did get an Enervate from that Malthael. There we go. That's a good start. Everyone's nice and low. We're gonna head up here. Interesting choice. Interesting choice. Let's go Mortality. We're gonna see if we can take this Bruiser camp. We just want to make sure that we get everybody with Reaper's Mark. That'll keep our health up for the most part anyway. I'm going to come down here to help out this fort. We still have our Sippy Cup up, which I am going to tap. So Butcher is going to find himself in some trouble unless he brands this guy soon.
Take heed, mortals.
And unfortunately, Butcher's brand might have been down. If he had brand, he probably could have healed through it. Alright, let's come back up here. We'll let Azmodan deal with that. And I immediately want to jump on this here Immortal and start taking it down. I'm just holding Q down just to get as much damage on this thing as possible.
Must find another way.
That's a good kill. Oh, hello.
We stand victorious.
I am going to go Tormented Souls. I'm a little low on the mana, however. Yay, got that globe. That's nice.
I will cleanse this land from your corruption, Hellspawn.
Their healer is way up here, out of position. I need to back off, I'm getting hit. We still may be able to push. Their healer is way out of position. Oof. And that's gonna be game.
My strength.
Well, that was pretty simple. 6-0 now. How about that? Oh, I died. Defeated.
MVP.
Sonya gets the MVP. Oh, top DPS. Yes, yes he did. How about that? Let's go. We'll give him the votes. I don't know what happened with that team. For a team that was a 4-man stack, they were very uncoordinated. We'll take it. I mean, I'll take it. I like a W. 64% immortal damage. That's what he can do to the Immortals. Alright, let's look at the stats. Yeah, got killed one time. That probably was my fault. Sonya did well. I mean, it's hard to look at the stats and not say it was a good game. 8-minute game. Very, very short, but I will take it nonetheless. Let's go through the talents real fast. What do we've got? Level 1, Fear the Reaper. Activate to increase movement speed by 25%. Didn't even necessarily need to use it. Team did a good job of blocking for me. I didn't need to use it to stay out of danger. I might have been able to use it one more time to kind of put myself in range of somebody, but it wasn't necessary. So I still think this was a good call at level 1. Level 4, Black Harvest. Quest, apply Reaper's Mark to heroes for a total of 150 seconds. Didn't finish it, 8-minute game. I think I got 45, 50 ticks in, whatever it was toward the end. The plan about this was just to get this up as quickly as possible and then have the extra time on this for contesting the Immortal. If it came down to it, but they just kind of let me do my thing. Level 7, Mortality. When damaging a hero, Right Strike deals bonus damage equal to 4% of the hero's maximum health. Tormented Souls, we did use it. I think we cast this one time toward the end, got a kill on Asmodan with it. They weren't, I mean, Butcher's melee, Malthael has some melee. That's kind of really what I was going for there, just get it in out as many people at once. I wasn't a huge, I'm still, after using Last Rites, I think the range is just too short in order to be really viable in a great situation. 13, had we gotten to 13, I would have gone with Ethereal Existence. I'll just stack with the armor nonetheless, just in case that Butcher gets to me. He can kind of tear me up pretty quickly. I've had a couple of games where Butcher really just deletes me, especially if he goes Lamb to the Slaughter, which he did right here. 16, I would have gone Memento Mori for the bonus damage, especially against the Immortal. And then 20, probably no one can stop death. So there you go. There's Malthael in a nutshell. It was a good team. It wasn't a great, it wasn't a great showcase, but it definitely worked out pretty well. Let me know what you think. I will put the talent build up on Heroes Hearth. All right, take care. Thanks for watching.